How we doing today? My name is Caleb Cantu. As you know, this is Caleb's Corner, and welcome back. Today's episode is going to be about Dave. This is the show starring Lil Dicky, aka Dave Bird. This show cracks me up, and I've been waiting to talk about it for a long time. So shout out to everybody who answered the poll that I had on Twitter. Did you want to talk about Dave or did you want to talk about anime? You guys voted for Dave, so guess what? That's what we're doing. I'm huge on community, so you guys want it, you'll get it. That being said, let's go ahead and get into today's topic. So Dave is a show that you need to take with a grain of salt. That is, first off the bat, you need to understand that this show is just a little bit weird, right? It's strange. It definitely starts off in the most unexpected way ever. It is Dave talking to a doctor about how he might have genital herpes. And he, in order to express to the doctor his concerns about, the way that he looks, he goes into a whole spiel that I'm sure he has had prepared since the day he was born. And he talks about how his body is misconfigured and it's due to a surgery and a rare disease that he has called hypospadias, where the hole on his, genitalia isn't necessarily in the spot that it's supposed to be. It's in a part that's under. It's just weird. The show is it takes some getting used to. But that being said, the absurdity of the comedy is what makes it so funny and relatable, because I think the fact that Dave expressing his biggest insecurity in a comedic way shows a lot about how far he's come as a person, and that he is not only comfortable talking about this in a national and global setting, he's also accepted it into a point where it's not only something that he can talk about, but it's something that he is now profiting off of. I mean, imagine taking your biggest insecurity and then making $1 million off of it. Not only would you feel validated and you would feel like that insecurity doesn't mean that much anymore, but it would also give you the confidence and the happiness to succeed in whatever you wanted to do. Because really the only thing holding us back is ourselves, right? My opinion of myself is the only thing that I go to sleep with at night. Nobody else is here. Nobody else is going to come in and make me do things. It's just me. What I say matters, and how I affect my life is infinitely more important than how other people affect my life. And the message of truth that I try to spread isn't something that I think is just positive, love, warmth, and hopefully comfortable. So that's me. And Dave is a man who took, his biggest insecurity being his messed up genitalia, and he turned it into an entire reality TV show. So that's the context. Now let's go ahead and get it a little bit into the show. Dave is, as I said, the story of Lil Dicky and his struggling career as a rapper. He believes that he is the greatest rapper of all time. He believes that, maybe not of all time, he believes he's one of the greatest rappers of all time. And in essence, as a rapper, you have to have that confidence in order to be able to succeed, in order to constantly hear people telling you, oh, you're trash, oh, you're never going to succeed, and to go against that and to strive against the grain and to make something that you enjoy, but is so based in who you are as a person that other people can enjoy it as well. And that's the story of Dave, is him struggling in this career that he has chosen, and not only struggling to execute it, but also improving to everybody in his, life, in his circle, that he is going to be successful at this. So in reference to the people that are in his circle, let's go ahead and introduce some of the characters. So I've already mentioned Dave. He's the first character you meet. He talks about his messed up dick, and he's the star of the show. And then we go ahead and meet his girlfriend, which is Allie, and Allie is played by Taylor Messiah. I apologize if I'm messing up your name. I just am not very good at pronouncing things sometimes. She plays Allie, that is Dave's girlfriend. She's a teacher in the show. She's very supportive. I think she's an excellent grounding aspect of the show, in that she provides support, but she also provides reality, and that you can't grow without change, and change is a good thing, but it can also be scary. So we'll get a little bit more into that later, but I really enjoy her character. We also meet Mike. Mike is Dave's best friend and roommate. Mike is played by Andrew Santino. I love Andrew. I mean, I listen to his podcast. He's a comedian. He's very funny. He plays this role extremely well because he's got a very monotone and almost fed up just tone in life, especially when it comes to Dave. And as you watch the show, you 100% understand why everybody in his life is just kind of like, ugh. I mean, this guy is so annoying. Like, he doesn't eat grapes. He doesn't eat vegetables. He's the epitome of immaturity. His name is Lil Dicky. That's his rap name, guys. He chose that as his rap name. He's supposed to be like this. Rap is a culture in which you have to flex, in which you have to be stunting the hardest in order to succeed. And this man chose a name, Lil Dicky. I'm just going to let y'all sit on that and think about what that means as far as the context of this show and the other rappers that he introduces himself to. So Mike provides an excellent fed up tone with Dave, and he really pushes him to be the best version of himself because he's his roommate. He cares about him. He's his best friend. But he's also like, Dave, like, you're a child. I need you to grow and understand that the choices that you make have consequences, and the actions that you're taking aren't always the best, and have your best interests in mind. We also meet Gata, who is actually really in Dave's life. You meet Gata, and that becomes Dave's hype man later throughout the show. But what we don't know, in fact, is that Gata and Dave are actual, like, partners in real life. That is his real hype man in the show, is his real hype man in real life. And I think that's such an interesting aspect because not only do they have this immediate connection and chemistry on the show in the pilot, it's pretty evident throughout the entire series that Gata and Dave have this kindred bond that makes both of them bring up interesting conversations and experiences from their life that help the other learn. And I love their relationship because it's just nothing but beneficial, positive growth and completely separate ends of the spectrum. It's fantastic, right? And so those are really the main characters of the show. Els is also a main character of the show, which is Dave's childhood friend. He's also his music producer. He's the person who comes in and creates all the beats. He would be the Isaac Semlinger of Dave. You know, as Isaac Semlinger has created my musical intro and I give hype to him for his creative projects, he is what Dave is, you know, to Els. And Els is such a funny part of the show because he's the most fed up with Dave. He is the most fed up with Dave. He's had to deal with Dave his entire life since elementary, and all of the craziness that has encompassed him and followed him. It's very funny to see their relationship on screen because you learn a lot of context about Dave's childhood that you just wouldn't really assume. And the way that they do it is hilarious and also kind of sad because, I mean, Dave gets made fun of constantly. And Els is not someone to make fun of him in a malicious way, but just more like has your bros hassle you. And it's a good relationship that keeps Dave grounded. So those are the characters, right? And that being said, I think my favorite character of the show has to be Gata. He is such a smart, intellectual person who has such a depth to reality in this show. I mean, I really enjoy the way that, as I said, he develops a friendship through the pilot and continues that friendship with Dave throughout the entire series. Without Gata, I feel like Dave would not have the confidence nor the know-how of how to get into the music industry, because the first episode where Gata and Dave are introduced is Gata is literally setting up a deal, a music feature collaboration deal between YG and Dave. And so Gata says, give me your phone. I'm gonna put Nutty's number in your phone. That's YG's manager. And so Dave then sets up this deal for $10,000 and gives Nutty his basic entire life savings to, you know, star on a track with him and push his career to the next level. I kind of expect y'all to have seen the show already, so I hope I'm not spoiling anything for y'all. But that being said, the show itself basically culminates to Dave going to record the song. It never ends up being recorded, and they have casual conversation in which Dave showcases just truly how out of touch with the rap culture he is, and how he is nothing like YG, and a feature for them would be extremely weird and out of place, especially at this point in the season. But he asked Dave to rap because Dave is a rapper, and if you're a rapper, you're expected to have bars. That being said, YG says, "Rap for me, Lil Dicky. I want to see what you got." Dave's all scared. He's put on the spot. He doesn't really know anything, and they decide to waste the $10,000 that Dave had given them and just work on something else. So Dave says, "Wait, this is my opportunity to shine," and he stands up and he kills a freestyle at the end of the first episode. And that freestyle is absolutely what got me hooked onto the show, because it's eloquent, it's funny, the beats go hard, the verse is hard, and everything about it is just a culmination of like Little Dicky attacking himself in a satirical and funny way. And so it really sets an excellent precedent for the rest of the show, as in these are the issues that I struggle with, as well as a funny way to present them. And that's basically what the entire show is about. Dave going through his everyday life as a struggling rapper, and his friends and family stepping in to help him. Like I said, Ali is an incredible source of support for Dave. And in fact, the weirdest and most disturbing episode in the show is something that derails directly with Dave and Ali's relationship. And I think if you've seen the show, you know exactly what I'm referencing. It's the episode in which Dave, you're introduced to Dave's like daily habit and how he satisfies his pleasures when his girlfriend isn't around. And it's so weird. And basically he has like the bottom half of a sex doll and he just goes to town, right? And we're introduced to that and we're like, what on earth is happening? And then we're introduced to the idea that Dave and Ali don't really have, I would say, the best intimate relationship. You know, they've both kind of come to terms with the fact that their sex is boring, and Ali heard Dave talk about how he wants to try things and he wants to explore things. And she heard this in one of the songs that Dave was working on, and she really got miscommunicated with the ideas of pleasure that Dave wanted. And Dave has spent his entire life with the insecurity of his genitalia. And he spent his entire life trying to hide it from his girlfriend. So his girlfriend, for who knows how long they've been together in this show, it doesn't really tell you, but you can tell they've been together for some significant amount of time, has never once fully seen Dave naked. And I mean, it's a little embarrassing, bro. Like, your girl's never seen you naked. It's your entire life's work to make sure that that doesn't happen. Imagine the amount of energy it takes to hide something from your loved one. Now imagine the amount of energy it takes to do that every single time y'all are getting intimate and want to have intercourse. Like, it's just a ridiculous amount of effort that Dave goes through to hide how ashamed he really is of something that she should have known from the very beginning. And so this episode 3, does a really good job of playing into the fact that love is an acceptance of the worst and scariest parts of a separate person. And Ali does an excellent job of making sure that not only is Dave comfortable, but she accepts him. She accepts him, and she accepts him fully for who he is and what he was doing at arguably the worst moment, you know, of their relationship. And she stuck with him, because once Ali understood why Dave was so scared and insecure and had this barrier that prevented them from getting closer, not only was she able to accept that barrier, process it, and find a way to jump over it, she was patient and she was willing. And that's really all a relationship takes. You know, it takes two people who are patient, who are willing, and want what's best for themselves and want what's best for each other. And then you grow together, and one day you try what she loves, and one day you try what he loves, and then the next day you try what you both love, and that's intimacy. And Ali said that in the show, and I was like, man, that is a beautiful representation of a relatable aspect that I think almost every couple has gone through at least once. You know, once you reach that point, it changes things, and that level of closeness between you becomes so deep and personal that you never feel like you would share that part of you with anybody else. And so they do a really good job of taking a terrible and messed up situation and ending it with a funny and heartfelt moment at the end that prevents a good, not prevents, but it establishes a good foundation and relationship and trust that Dave and Allie have for the rest of the show. And it makes you feel like, okay, well, Dave has a smart, sound girl by his side, so he has to be somewhat capable of having articulate thoughts and conversations, or else she wouldn't be with him. And that's why I love Allie's character so much, because, like I said, she provides that support and groundedness in reality that you just wouldn't have with just Dave. Because, I mean, honestly, he's an idiot. Like, watching him in the show sometimes just makes me go, like, why are you talking, bro? Like, the things that you say are ridiculous. It's almost exactly what you'd expect out of a white rapper's mouth. And I think that is the point of the show, you know, to play on stereotypes and to break those stereotypes, which kind of leads me into the next episode, which is my favorite episode, Gata's episode. And as I said before, he is my favorite character. He's got so many layers. He's got a depthness to him that is really not visible until you get deeper into the show, which is why it's so good too, because the show isn't just about Dave. It's about the people that surround him and their experiences and what they go through, and how what you see on the surface is exactly that. It's just on the surface, and you don't really know how deep these characters go until you get to a point where they give you the context. Context is my favorite thing in a show, because once you have context, you have a understanding of the experience that someone has gone through. And that understanding provides you an insight into their mind, into how they're feeling, into why they made the choices that they did. So in this episode, Gata is a hype man, and we're 4 years in the past, and we are introduced to Gata as a hype man for another artist, and he's just, you know, balling out, living life, having a great time on the bus, and he's actually too hype for the rappers. Like, they get to a point where they're like, chill, Gata, like, you're doing too much. And he's like, bro, I'm not doing enough. Like, I can't believe y'all are just chilling here. You know, we just had a great night. We need to make it even better. Let's go. And he was just amped and ramped. And so they ended up kicking him off the tour bus, and everybody started talking crap about him and said that he went crazy. And, you know, we see Gata going into that episode as someone who wants to help Dave. This is his first time performing as Dave's hype man in the show, and he wants to be ready. He wants to be excited, and that same kind of energy that we saw from 4 years ago is coming back up. And we saw Gata get ramped up and just 0 to 100 real quick, and he wants to be the best hype man possible for Dave, and he just wants to make everything live and bring up the party. And Dave's like, I need you to calm down. Like, look at what you're doing. And Gata's like, okay, I'm sorry. I felt it, you know, I apologize. So he went and got his medicine, to which we didn't really know what that was for until we get another flashback into Gata's life, where he is in a store with his mom just buying some shoes. And some dude comes up to him and is like, Gata, you owe me money. I can't believe you're in here buying shoes. That's ridiculous. You either run that back right now, or I'm going to beat you right here in front of your mom. And so, of course, Gata's mom is scared, doesn't know what to do. She's like, I'll give you the money. And this man says, no, it's between me and Gata. So Gata returns his brand new pair of shoes that he got, gave this dude the money, and that dude left in a fury. And Gata was super upset, and just started trashing the store, started breaking things, going off on a tangent about how he's going to be rich and about how he's going to be famous. And it was such an extreme response to the situation that he was in. We didn't really know what was happening, other than that something was wrong. Go to the next scene. Gata's in a hospital bed, and they basically come to the conclusion that Gata's bipolar. And so we see the prescription that Gata's getting, and it's something to calm him down. He said that the doctor told him to get it if he ever felt himself ramping up, which is what he did in front of Dave. And so he took the medicine. Next day, filming, trying to be the hype man, Gata's super lethargic. You know, he is not nearly at the hype that he was that day. In fact, he's not even the hype that he normally is. He's just down and he's completely out of it. And as anybody who has been on medication knows, that's what happens sometimes. And Dave's getting mad at Gator. He's like, "What are you doing? We need to rehearse. Do you know how important this is to me?" And he was like, "Look, dude, I'm bipolar." Dave's like, "What?" And Gator says, "I'm bipolar. There is a chemical imbalance in my brain, bro. Sometimes I have really good days and sometimes I have really bad days. That's just who I am." And hearing that on screen and watching that for the first time, seeing Gator admit that and go off on how he is not only struggling with this every day of his life, but he hasn't told anybody this before. And that Dave, the people in that room, Mike, Els, all of his best friends are the closest people that he's ever been to his entire life, because Gate has always felt ashamed and hindered by that. And he felt like out of place everywhere he went until he met a bunch of other weirdos. Dave, who talks about, his genitalia all the time on his songs. He's a weirdo. And Mike, who lotions Dave's back because their relationship is just that. It's just that close as best friends. And it's a weird and hilarious relationship that you just wouldn't ever expect to see on screen. And then Els, who is super cool and funny and always knows exactly what he's talking about articulately. It's a really heartfelt moment that touched me because it was a complete acceptance of these are my problems, and talking about them with the most important people in my life will allow me to stop from hiding them and accept it. And once you accept it, it's not something that you can have held against you anymore. It's something that you can grow from. It's something that can be positive. So it was a really beautiful moment in my mind, and it was probably my favorite moment from the show itself. But that being said, there's so much that happens throughout the show that you can't really pin it down to what this show is about in just that scene. I think it shows really well that everybody has their flaws, everybody has things that they need to accept, and everybody's handling it in their own way. And it's wrong of you to assume, A, everybody has it figured out, and B, that if you have yourself figured out, somebody else doesn't, So those assumptions are bad. They lead to exactly what I just said, assumptions, and those assumptions are wrong about people, and that can end up hurting people. So the show does a really good job of breaking assumptions, breaking stereotypes, and getting into the reality of who the person is and what they can become. Because we as humans are constantly growing. We have a potential that is unmatched. It is infinite. Our mind actually does not have a cap as far as the amount of information it can store. There's no cap. Now, of course, our lifestyle will affect the amount of knowledge that we are able to intake. Smoking, drinking, that kills brain cells and therefore increases the likelihood of disease. But if you live a healthy lifestyle and you take care of yourself, I promise you the amount of growth that you can have is infinite if you just apply yourself. And I think the show does a really good job of expressing that as well. The show can be immature at times. Absolutely. I mean, it's called Dave and it's about the story of Lil Dicky. And like I said, it's super wild. It's out there, especially that episode where they're talking about the sex doll and just everything going on. But it's a really funny representation of his story. And if you're a fan of Lil Dicky, I promise you'll be a fan of the show. If you're not a fan of Lil Dicky and you're just looking for something that's weird, that's out there, that's funny, that touches on a lot of socioeconomic issues in a funny and not so serious way, then this is the show for you. I promise. If you like rap, this is the show for you. I think the score is excellent. I think the music that they chose is, I don't want to say derivative, but it is established because it's a show about rap, about a rapper who plays a lot of underground rap in the background, and it's fantastic. That being said, there's not really too many negatives that I have about the show, other than the fact that it can be incredibly immature sometimes. If you aren't a fan and you're just like putting it on and you're gonna watch it and you're like, oh, I'll give this a chance. If you don't have like a high tolerance of humor, if you're not someone who can sit through things and go, oh, this will get better, then it's kind of weird and it's kind of slow at first. But I promise you, the culmination of the show is fantastic. The season finale does a really good job of linking things from episode 1 all the way into episode 10. It is a 10 episode series. Season 2 is coming out soon. However, with Corona happening, I'm not sure if filming is still happening and what the restrictions on that are, but it's an excellent show, and the amount of subtlety that it puts throughout the plot is excellent. I mean, there are specific key phrases that are said throughout each episode that culminate perfectly within the span of 15 to 20 minutes in the last episode. Within the last episode, Dave gives credit to his entire career, right? He gives credit to everybody that's been in there. He gives credit to Gata. He's on the Breakfast Club, and he's finally about to release his best track ever, something that he's written this entire time, and he's ready to showcase it to the world because he feels that this is the greatest thing ever of all time, and they, aren't. His friends are like, I wouldn't do this, man. I need you to understand that I love you and I want you to succeed, and what you were trying to do just isn't what's best for you. And Dave's like, look, guys, I just want to live my life. Everybody's telling me what to do, and I'm getting real sick and tired of it. And so his truest friends are like, all right, man, like, I'll support you. I'll rock with you no matter what, but now you know how I feel. I don't think this is the best thing for you. And so Dave finally gets on the Breakfast Club, and they just start grilling him, right? They just start grilling him. Dave, why are you here? You're a white rapper. What are you even doing in this industry? Like, do you feel that you being different is something that you take pride in? Are you here to just play a role? Are you here to just be funny? Like, why are you even doing this, Dave? And Gata steps up and says, dude, I think he is one of the best rappers alive, Charlemagne. I think he's got bars like nobody's business, and I rock with him every fucking day. And I tell him straight from the bottom of my heart that he's going to be one of the best rappers alive, and I know it to be true. And so Dave takes all of the support from everybody that has been his friend in this season and decides to do something that he just would never do at the beginning of the series, and he decides to freestyle. And even Charlemagne's like, bro, you're gonna freestyle live in front of 8 million people. And Dave says, look, sometimes you just have no other choice, and it just is what it is, so here we go. And I promise you, if you watch the show from beginning to end, that moment is just so mind-blowing to me, because in the beginning, first episode, he didn't want to even rap in front of his girlfriend, the woman who loves and supports him, the woman who at the end of the day is sleeping in his bed with him. He didn't even want to rap for her. And so for him to go out of his way to set aside a project that he's been working his entire career on, something that he thinks is the epitome of all of his hard work, to set it aside because his friends are telling him that it's not the right time, that it's not a good project, to put his pride to the side and come out and face his biggest insecurity, face his biggest fear, and do it live in front of 8 million people. It's an immense moment of growth and just satisfaction, because you're like, finally, I'm watching a show about Dave, about rapping, and not only am I finally going to see some rapping, this man kills it. He talks about every insecurity he's ever had. He talks about his girlfriend leaving him. He talks about his messed up genitalia. He talks about how he's not where he wants to be in life. And he does it in a funny, smart, artistic, and definitely stylish way. And I promise you, all the haters that were listening, you can't hate on skill. You just can't. And Dave absolutely killed it. And it's funny because he's like, my name's Dave. I'm a rapper. I'm Lil Dicky, but that's not who I am. It's not who I introduce myself. I introduce myself as Dave. And so that's literally the last line of this freestyle is, if you walk up to me and you see me on the street and say, hi, LD, I'll stop you and I'll say, whoa, my name is. And then Charlemagne goes, what's your name? And it cuts back to Dave, and he just goes, Dave. And that's the end of the series for now. That's the end of season 1. So to everybody who is thinking about watching it, to everybody who is having the idea that this is something that you would enjoy, I would 100% agree with you, and I think that you should give it a chance. Now, once again, I need you to understand that this is a weird show, so you need to take it with a grain of salt and just watch it all the way through because it's worth it. It may not be the best right now, but it's only season 1, guys. It's just getting its foot under itself. Like, it doesn't have any sort of structure. There's no basis for something like this. This is the first time that they've ever done anything like this, and it was his first season, and I think it did a really good job for what it was at the time. And now hopefully it can create a bunch of parallels from season 1 into season 2. I would love to see the audio tag that Dave had at the end where he says, "Els made the beat," and Charlemagne says, "Who the hell is Els?" In the rest of L's music. I think that would be an excellent idea. Writers, you're more than welcome to take that for season 2. I would love for you guys to incorporate that because I think it's an excellent parallel in the L's episode when they're shopping for wooden shirts and L's music just keeps getting stolen because he has to put it out in order to have a finished product, but rappers just keep taking his music and not giving him credit for it. So I think that would be an excellent parallel to go from season 1 to season 2. But that being said, I can only give suggestions. I can only give ideas, and here at Caleb's Corner, we're not getting paid to do anything. So as unfortunate as that is, you guys are welcome to have those nuggets of wisdom for free. Thank y'all so much for listening. I had a great time talking about this show. If you guys have any comments, thoughts, suggestions, if you watched the show and you felt differently, once again, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what your thoughts are. This is Caleb's Corner. I am Caleb Cantu, and I appreciate all of you.